I had watched every episode, but my greatest admiration, or two, I had such admiration for the ensemble, the actors, but also I'd always admired Julian Fellowes, but working on the film, that even skyrocketed because he's such a genius at giving everybody a story, these telling moments of humour and emotion that characterise the show. He's a genius at that, and that was very rewarding to work out each time we set up a scene, what was the important emotional beat. And I saw the Cherry Orchard on the stage last week, and I was just thinking, Julian is the equal of Anton Chekhov in that. Chekhov's plays are about a family, meaning the servants, the family all in a house, and that's what Downton Abbey is. And I think that's why it resonates with people, because yes, it's a very specific moment in time, but it's also incredibly universal because everybody is treated with respect, and no matter their age or their class or their role, Julian gives everybody a humanity and a dignity. I thought it was a very satisfying script that brought to a resolution so many of the stories in a very, very satisfying way. And even more than the first film, it gave our key characters really great storylines. When everyone gets back to Downton from the wedding, they're greeted with a bombshell information where Violet reveals that, out of the blue apparently, she's been left a gorgeous villa in the south of France. And so that kicks off a mystery that involves a trip to France to uncover the real story behind that. I'd had experience working with a big ensemble, but that's the really intimidating thing about directing Downton, which I'm sure all the previous directors have also felt, which is that there's no such thing as an easy scene in Downton. And even it would be like they cut the cake, we get ready to rehearse, and I'd see half of British Equity coming up towards the camera. And there'd be a scene that in another film, a page-and-a-half scene, dialogue would be something you could just rush off. But then you actually got to it and you realise that, in fact, being Julian, it was 4 mini scenes within that scene, 4 different clusters of conversations that all needed coverage and took their time. So that was the most intimidating thing, just the amount of people in every scene, let alone when you do a film within a film where you've got our own crew, the fake crew, and the characters, And there was one scene, which is the big dinner party scene within the film, where I think it took us 3 days and there were over 50 setups, so that's definitely intimidating. I think the role of a director is to help everybody on both sides of the camera do their best work, and the last thing this group of actors needed was someone to come in and tell them how to play characters they'd already been playing for 10 years. So it was, allowing them to make a lot of decisions and not being threatened by that is a big part of directing in this kind of situation. So it is the first time they've gone abroad, and that was tricky, both in story terms, but also in production terms, because due to COVID, we didn't know we were going to France till a couple of weeks before we actually went. And the studio rightly had asked us to prepare UK locations to serve as France, should we not be able to go. And in fact, I'd never even been to the location until we went there to film. But I'd seen, obviously, video of this gorgeous house, and so I fought to go there. And it was a very special experience for us all to be there, particularly after lockdown and the end of the film and the end of an era, if you like. Well, the production values were always pretty high for the show. But obviously on a film you have more time. And, the trip to France, that in itself is giving it scale. And it makes it feel different. So you just, we were ambitious with the scenes and the sequences. And it does feel like a very cinematic experience, I think. I was thrilled to get Andrew Dunn to be the DOP. I've admired his work hugely for a long time. And of course, he shot Gosford Park, which is the godfather of Downton Abbey. So, and of course, his work is very cinematic. I think he's made over 70 films. And most recently, the Lee Daniel films that are so great. And it was a real honour that he came on board and he delivered a fantastic. To be perfectly honest, I was so confident they knew what they were doing. I left them to their own devices, and the costumes are phenomenal, and I love the makeup. The contrast, say, between Jack Barber and the men in the house, the slightly longer hair and so on, is great, and they are key components of the look of this film. I would go for even more comedy. It was left up to me, and I think again that goes back to the Chekhov, the Cherry Orchard, where those Russians are crying one minute and laughing the next, and it's also a bit like, I always think, like the old music hall, where there'd be a juggler followed by an opera singer, followed by a drama, followed by a comedian, and Julian's like that. He offers, there's a funny bit, then a heartbreaking bit, then a drama bit, and finding out what the right beat was and making the funny thing as funny as possible and the emotional thing as emotional as possible is all our job on a film like this. It's a very specific moment in time, and it's not that everything in 1929 was great for the people who lived at that time, but there were things and elements of that life that seem enviable now, where people did all work together, and what Julian does is give everybody a dignity and a humanity, whether they're young or old or whatever their job or class is. And I think people respond to that the kitchen maid and the lady of the house are equally important to the mix of it. And I think that is society working together, which we can only hope we do. This film, I think it landed at a time in the midst of Brexit and Trump, where people were nostalgic, actually not for the 1920s, but for the 5 years earlier, when they used to sit and be happy on a Sunday night with their family. And I hope this film will land at a time where, particularly coming out of the pandemic that's been so difficult for so many people all over the world. And of course, let's not forget, this is a group of characters who'd come through a pandemic. And in fact, one of the characters in the film refers to her sister having died of the Spanish flu. And this is a group of people on the other side of a pandemic. And I hope this is the story for people on the other side of a pandemic, let's hope, and that it will be a sort of comforting and amusing and emotional escape for a couple of hours for people all over the world.